you guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Hallie and I'm so happy that you're here. Today we are going to be talking about all the books that I want to read in February to hopefully get me out of my reading slump. Yes, if you are wondering, Hallie, where have you been? We haven't seen you since Bookmas. I have been just, fighting for my life. Towards the end of Bookmas, I just completely hit a wall. I was really burnt out, and I just decided that I needed to take a step back and give myself a break, give myself time to really focus on me and my mental health. So throughout the end of December and January, I have been trying out different meds. I also am getting back into therapy, so I just wasn't in the right space to try and be creating content on top of all of that. But I'm so excited to finally be at a place where I can start creating content again, and I'm really hoping that the books that I chose this month will help me get out of my reading slump. Before I get into all the details of all the books that I chose for my February TBR, I do want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Book of the Month. Of course, we all know on this channel that I love Book of the Month. I talk about them all the time, and I am personally subscribed to Book of the Month as well, but just in case you don't already know what Book of the Month is a monthly book subscription service that has the best prices on new release hardcover fiction, and their mission is to bring the best new fiction forward. Basically, how Book of the Month works is every single month there are new curated picks that are chosen by their editorial team after reading through hundreds of new and emerging books and authors. And if there's a month where none of the book options catch your eye, you can always skip any month free of charge. And on top of all of that, if you would prefer to listen to your book pick, Book of the Month does offer audiobooks in addition to the hardcovers. So every month you're able to choose whether you would like to do the hardcover or the audiobook for that month. And this month when you join, you can get your first book and a free little hat for just $9.99 when you use the code ROMCOM. For this month's picks, I chose Sunk in Love by Heather McBreen. The little blurb on this one says, "A second chance at love sets sail when a couple on the verge of divorce pretends that they're still together for one last family trip." I am so excited for this because we all know last year was the year that I discovered I love second chance romance. So I have very high hopes for this, and I feel like that's a smart move when I'm in a slump to read a trope that I know that I recently especially have been loving. And then secondly, I chose a mystery thriller called It's Not Her by Mary Kubica. And this one says, Courtney Gray's tranquil family vacation is shattered when she hears a blood-curdling scream from the lakeside cottage next door. There she finds the lifeless bodies of her brother and sister-in-law. Her teenage niece, Reese, is nowhere to be found, while her nephew, Wyatt, lies asleep upstairs unharmed. As the police descend on the quiet resort town, disturbing secrets about Courtney's family start to emerge. When she learns that the town has secrets of its own, it makes her wonder if Reese is another victim in a brutal crime or if she's the killer. Courtney begins to unravel the terrible mystery, but everyone around her has something to hide, and the closer she gets to the truth, the harder it is to see. I'm also very excited for this one. I feel like January, February, and March are my biggest mystery thriller reading months, and also I feel like mystery thrillers work really well for me to get out of a slump because they're very fast-paced and engaging, so very high hopes for this one as well. So if you are also interested in trying out Book of the Month, you can go to bookofthemonth.com or click the link down below in my description and get your first book and a free hat for just $9.99 with the code ROMCOM. Like I said, everything that you need is down below in my description box. I highly recommend checking them out, especially while you can get a free hat and your first book for just $9.99. So make sure to go check out Book of the Month, and thank you so much to Book of the Month for partnering with me on today's video. Okay, so to get into some of the other books on my TBR for this month, I have a couple more mystery thrillers. I just feel like mystery thrillers work really well for me when I'm in a slump because they are so fast-paced and engaging. And it's actually funny because quite a few books on my TBR are also Book of the Month books. But the first one that I have is Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister. The synopsis on this one says, it's June 21st, the longest day of the year, and new mother Camilla's life is about to change forever. After months of maternity leave, she will drop her infant daughter off at daycare for the first time and return to her job as a literary agent. But when she wakes, her husband, Luke, isn't there, and in his place is a cryptic note. Then it starts. Breaking news. There's a hostage situation developing in London. The police arrive and tell her Luke is involved, but he isn't a hostage. Her husband, doting father, eternal optimist, is the gunman. What she does next is crucial, because only she knows what the note he left behind that morning says. That sounds so interesting. That premise already has me hooked because I can't even imagine seeing on the news that there's a hostage situation going on and then realizing that the person that's doing it all is your partner. My soul would leave my body, I think. So very excited to try this one out, and I really really hope that I like it. The next one that I have, I'm also really, honestly, I'm excited for all these and I have very high hopes for all these, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much. But the next mystery thriller that I have is Famous Last Words by Taylor Adams. I feel like so many people, when they're talking about like their favorite mystery thrillers, this book ends up on the list. The synopsis for this one says, Emma Carpenter is living in isolation with her golden retriever, Leica, house sitting an old beachfront home in the rainy Washington coast. Her only human contact is with her enigmatic elderly neighbor, Deke, and via text with the house owner, Jules. One day, she reads a poorly written but gruesome horror novel by the author H.G. Cain and posts a one-star review that drags her into an online argument with none other than the author himself. Soon after, disturbing incidents start to occur at night. To Emma, this can't just be a coincidence. It was strange enough for this author to bicker with her online about a lousy review. Could he be stalking her too? As Emma digs into Cain's life and work, she learns he has published 16 other novels, all similarly sadistic tales of stalking and murder. But who is he? How did he find her? And what else is he capable of? That sounds crazy. That concept, like posting a negative review and then the author coming at you for your negative review, is terrifying, but so intriguing. So I honestly have really high hopes for both of these mystery thrillers. Very excited. The next 3 books that I have are actually 3 books that I've already technically started, but I haven't been able to finish because I was entering a burnout and also entering a slump. So my thought process behind adding these to the TBR is maybe a good way to get out of a slump is to get back into a book that I was already reading and really enjoying. Maybe? I don't know. I have a couple different game plans going with my TBR. I have mystery thrillers, a couple books that I've already started, and then I have a couple of books that are more like literary fiction because I haven't read much literary fiction, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe if I try like a new genre, that will get me out of a slump. I don't know. I'm trying to set myself up for success by giving myself as many different game plans as possible. But the next 3 books that I have that I've technically already started is Thorn Season by Kira Azar. This one, I don't even remember how far I made it into this because I think that the last time I read this, I was reading it on my Kindle. But the little blurb on the side of this one says, an heiress possessing illegal magic who has more to lose than just her secrets. A harsh and glittering royal court where the threat of discovery lurks around every corner. 2 beguiling and very dangerous men who might be her salvation or her ruin. It's rose season at the palace, but survival will depend on becoming the most vicious of thorns. So this, whenever I started it, I was really enjoying it. It was so fast paced. Like I literally flew through so much of it in like 1 or 2 sittings. And I actually really am hopeful for this one because I feel like this one I picked up because it kind of reminded me of the vibes of The Rose Bargain because of the fact that it's like a Regency era fantasy, and it's been really good so far. So I'm excited to hopefully get farther into this one and hopefully finally finish it because I do really want to see like what is going to happen and where the story is going to take us, because I think the point that I was at, I had just gotten through like a lot of the setup and the plot was really starting to pick up, and there was a little bit of like lore or information that was dropped like right before I stopped reading it that was really interesting, and I feel like it's going to change like the direction that the book is going in. So very excited to hopefully get further into this one this month. The next one that I have that I'm about halfway through, Fearless by Lauren Roberts. Also, listen to how like crinkly this is. I don't even know if you can tell. I spilt a soda all over the dust jacket of this book, so she's a little crinkly, but it's okay. I'm about halfway through this book and it is so good. Honestly, the only reason that I put this down is because I could feel myself going into a slump and I did not want to read this while I was in a slump and ruin it for myself, but it's so good so far. Like obviously we all know I have loved this series so much, so I'm so sad that this is the last book. And honestly, like while I was reading it last, I had taken my Kindle to one of my doctor's appointments and I literally flew through like 75 pages while I was waiting there, and then I like made myself stop because I was like, no, I'm going through this too fast. I want to savor it. I don't want it to be over. I know I'm gonna be sad once it's over and I will never be able to read it again for the first time. So I am both looking forward to finishing this and also not looking forward to finishing this because then I know that like I'll never be able to read it again for the first time, but I have to read it at some point. So we'll see if I end up finishing this or just like moseying through it this month, but it's so good so far. Like I'm having a great time. And then the last book that I have that I already started, I actually only read I think like a couple of chapters in, but it is Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This is a newer author to me. I've never read one of her books, but I have really high hopes based on like the reviews of people that have read her books that it will be something that I really like. I feel like the last year, 2025, I really was able to narrow down like what my taste is in romance books more specifically. So I'm really hoping that I like this. Basically, all I know about this book still is that it is a surprise pregnancy trope and the main character like falls for her brother's best friend, but her brother's best friend is not the father. So that's all I know about this one, but I'm very excited to get into this when I do finally get into it. I don't know if I will end up getting to it this month, but I wanted to have a couple of romances on my TBR for this month because it's February, it's the month of love, like you have to include a couple of romances. So that is the third book that I have on my TBR that I've technically already started. Hopefully that gives me a leg up on my reading slump. I don't know. The last 3 books that I have on my TBR are a couple of, like I said, more like literary fiction leaning books, I feel like. The first one is The Bright Years by Sarah DeMoff. Not sure if I'm saying her last name right, but I have seen such good reviews about this book. I honestly have no idea like what it's about. I know that it follows like a couple generations of a family, but that's literally all I know about it, and I want to go into it pretty blind. I just feel like every single person that I've seen talk about this like, sobbed while they read it and then rated it 5 stars. So I do feel like I could really get into some like deeply emotional books. So I'm really excited to give this one a try, and I really hope that I like it as much as everyone else seems to like it. After that, I have The Wedding People by Alison Espach? I don't know. Basically, all I know about this book is it's about a girl who is at like rock bottom in her life. I think she's like recently separated from her husband, and she goes to this beach town to give herself like one last hurrah, like one last vacation before she is done with life, I'll say. And then she ends up being mistaken as a +1 for this wedding and starts to talk to the bride of the wedding, and I guess they really bond or something. I don't know, something along those lines. I do know that a lot of people have said like if you go into this book, just be aware that it talks about pretty heavy themes. I know that there's a lot on depression and obviously the subject matter of her wanting her life to be over. Lots of heavy topics, so just be aware of that going into this one if you do decide to pick it up. I feel like I personally really like when books talk about heavy themes and topics like that, because sometimes when you read about the things that you also can relate to and you hear it voiced or expressed in a way that like makes so much sense, but you would have never been able to like voice it that way or been able to like describe or explain it that way. It's such a unique feeling because it's like, wow, I never thought to explain it like that, but that makes perfect sense. Or like even just getting to see the characters, like how they are able to cope with the situation and how they get out of things can be like really inspiring for you in your own life. Even though it is only fiction, I just feel like for me personally at least, I really like to see it represented in books. So I'm really hopeful that I like this, and again that this will be a really deeply emotionally moving story, hopefully. And then lastly we have Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I'm so excited to read this. I've wanted to read this book for the longest time, and the premise sounds so interesting. This one says, looking at real estate isn't usually a life or death situation, but an apartment open house becomes just that when a failed bank robber bursts in and takes a group of strangers hostage. The captives include a recently retired couple who relentlessly hunt down fixer-uppers to avoid the painful truth that they can't fix up their own marriage. There's a wealthy banker who has been too busy making money to care about anyone else, and a young couple who are about to have their first child but can't seem to agree on anything, from where they want to live to how they met in the first place. Add to the mix an 87-year-old woman who has lived long enough not to be afraid of someone waving a gun in her face, a flustered but still ready to make a deal real estate agent, and a mystery man who has locked himself in the apartment's only bathroom, and you've got the worst group of hostages in the world. Each of them carries a lifetime of grievances, hurts, secrets, and passions that are ready to boil over. None of them is entirely who they appear to be, and all of them, the bank robber included, desperately crave some sort of rescue. As the authorities and the media surround the premises, these reluctant allies will reveal surprising truths about themselves and set in motion a chain of events so unexpected that they can hardly explain what happens next. That just sounds so intriguing. Again, I just can't imagine like going to like tour apartments or something and all of a sudden you're a hostage. Like that's actually terrifying, but can't wait to read about it and see what happens to the characters in this book. Actually, I have one more book. I almost forgot. We have The Second Death of Locke. This is actually our Patreon book club book pick, so I'm so excited to be reading this along with all the book club members. If you guys are interested in reading this along with us, the link to my Patreon book club is always down in my description box below. But the synopsis for this one says, Gray Flynn has dedicated her life to her mage, Kier. She will be his blade on the battlefield, his healer and protector. The deep well of raw power inside her is Kier's to wield. They are bound together by blood and magic, but there is one truth Gray dare not reveal, not even to Kier. When a quest to protect the child of an enemy kingdom pulls them into a dangerous mission, Grey will need to decide what she's willing to sacrifice to protect her secret. For Grey is no ordinary magical well, and if she dies, all magic dies with her. That sounds so good. I'm so excited to get into this one. So like I said, if this sounds interesting and you want to read it along with us, the link to my book club is down in my description box, and that is the last book that I have for the month of February. With that being said, these are all the books that I'm hoping will get me out of a slump in the month of February. If any of these sound interesting to you and you want to see reading vlogs for these, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss all of my future content coming up. I'm so excited to finally be back to it and finally kind of kick off my new year. I'm getting a very late and slow start to the new year, but honestly, I'm giving myself grace because even though the new year starts out in January, I believe that we can make fresh starts whenever we want. And I spent the month of January focusing on my physical and mental health, and I think that that was the right decision so that I could also have a healthy start to the new year. So I'm so happy to be back. I can't wait to chat with you guys in the comments about what books you're going to be reading this month as well, what you think about my book picks, if you have read any of these and what you thought of them. But with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!